Hey guys, it's Max. I'm here in my hotel room for the Sony A6500 event in Austin, Texas. Now I managed to get my hands on the A99 Mark II. There's just a few of them here and I was lucky enough to have a few hours with one. Got in early and was able to grab one. And I don't know if I'll get another chance to play with it because there's a lot of press here and there's just not a lot of these units. So I'm considering myself lucky. So I spent about a couple hours with it, 2 hours, maybe a little bit more. And I did some mainly 4K video shooting and some different tests and comparisons and stuff. So I actually got to get this camera back like a few minutes ago. So I want to talk about the camera and a couple little quirks that I found, and then I'm going to look over all the footage I shot. I did some low light testing. I compared the full frame mode to the crop sensor mode as far as detail and low light, autofocus, stuff like that, but I'll cover that and a little bit later. But just the body itself seems like a RX10 if you've used one of those. This is my first time using an A99, with this one being the Mark II model. Feels great in the hand like a standard DSLR. The controls just feel kind of like what I'm used to. You have your ISO buttons, the scroll wheels. It feels nice. It's heavy, definitely heavy. But you feel that it's really built well. And same with these A-mount lenses, they're very solid. I want to mention this flip out screen. So very cool thing that they did. You can close it if you don't want it to get scratched. You can see yourself if you want to take selfies or you record video like I'm doing right now. But one problem is if you're going to put a shotgun mic on here or a wireless receiver, you are going to be basically out of luck because you can't see anything. So that's one downside with this type of setup instead of a side flipping GH4 style setup. The LCD screen itself was fairly bright. It may be better than the A7R Mark II or similar, definitely not worse, definitely a lot better than the A6300. You can manual focus, you can see what's in focus, but sometimes you do second guess yourself. It's not as good as a 5D camera or like a Samsung AMOLED rear LCD screen. But the buttons feel great. There's a new menu system and I was kind of confused just because I'm used to the other Sony system that I've complained about so much. This is improved, it makes more sense. It's just I wasn't used to where different things were. But you'll get used to that fairly quickly. One thing I wanted to test is the dual card slots. If you can record video to both cards at once, making a duplicate. So if you're an event shooter, just in case one of the cards goes bad, you'll have everything copied. Now the Fuji X-T2 has 2 card slots as well, but for that you can only use both of them for photos. For video, just locked out to one. This camera thankfully can do both. You can set one to photo, one to video if you're shooting a mix of both, or you can set both to video to duplicate. So you have a lot of options there, so that's really good. You have this scroll wheel here, which I didn't use, but you can change it to different kind of shortcuts and options. Overall, the buttons feel great, and you do have better ergonomics than like an A7R Mark II. Another benefit, of course, is you're not going to have as much heat buildup since you have a bigger body. So if you do events, you want better ergonomics, you don't want to worry about heat, this is going to be a decent option. There's probably some good A-mount lenses for decent prices out there on the used market. So one thing I did test is the 4K detail in crop mode and full frame, which I'll check over and I'll talk about the low light between the full frame and crop mode. I think it will be similar to the A7R Mark II. I think this has the same sensor. Now, one quirk I did find is if I was in autofocus mode, it would stick me into program and wouldn't let me go to full manual controls like I always shoot in. It says you have to switch to manual focus. You switch over to manual focus mode, then you can have your manual controls, but as soon as you flip the switch back, it goes back into program auto, and it locks you at f3.5. So I was shooting with the 51.4 and I want to shoot at 1.4, get a nice blurred out background, but it wouldn't let me do that. So I don't know if this is just a quirk with the body. I'm going to ask the Sony guys about it and maybe play with it more if I get another chance to play with this camera. But overall, it looks like a good alternative to those that want to shoot video and not have to worry about overheating. The video autofocusing seemed really good. It tracked well, it was smooth when it was shifting focus. And I shot with Toby, PhotoRec Toby, and he was shooting photos and he said it tracked really well. It locked on quick, it stayed accurate. And then the follow-up, when you're viewing your photos, it's really quick with the new system. The buffer clears quick. You can see exactly what you shot, unlike the A7R Mark II, where you're standing there waiting. So the autofocus is good and clearing. So for sports, it seems to be an awesome camera. He was impressed with that. So I'm gonna pack this thing up and go give it back before I get in trouble. I'll take a look at the footage and I'll add in a little bit later. I have a makeshift light set up here with anything I can find, so sorry about the lighting, guys. All right, guys, so it's been just over 6 hours. It's past midnight now, and I gave the camera back, and when I did, I talked to 3 different Sony engineers about that autofocusing problem where it would go back into program auto mode and it would actually lock in at f3.5. And out of the 3 engineers, nobody really knew why. We went through all the menu settings, tried to change the hybrid autofocus to just a single phase detect autofocus, because the camera has 2 phase detect modes. One's on sensor and then one's a separate processor. So it has dual phase autofocusing, which is really cool. But I guess that could be a limitation. We went through different types of focusing modes. We went through disabling that hybrid focusing mode, a lot of different options, and literally we could not figure it out. He couldn't figure it out, meaning that if you want to shoot with video autofocus, there's a good chance at this point that you're going to be locked in at f3.5 and program auto mode. Literally, if you want to go manual, you can basically turn off the video autofocusing. But if you want video autofocusing, you're stuck in program mode and without any type of video autofocus. So that's a big downside. What if you want to shoot at f5.6? What if you want to shoot at f8? Or what if, like me, what if you want to shoot at f1.4 or whatever? You're stuck at 3.5. So yeah, big downside. Hopefully they could fix that. But we really have no idea. He's going to be trying to contact their guys in Japan and figure out what it is and if that could be fixed. If it's going to be fixed, I'm going to cut this portion out of the video. So if you're watching this right now, that means that there's either no info yet on it or it can't be fixed. So this could be a huge limitation for video shooters that want to get this camera. And a person I know of a few people who want to get one of these to shoot video. Anyways, there's also some other surprises. I looked over the footage. The 4K video looks great. It's detailed. And in this comparison here, you guys can see that the crop mode is slightly more detailed. It's not a huge difference, but there is more detail. Now the A7R Mark II was the same way. Now looking into the low light testing, this was a surprise as well. Now if you guys remember from the A7R Mark II, the crop mode did much better in low light than the full frame mode. The full frame mode looked okay until 3200, then it just crashed horribly at 6400. It just looked really bad. Seems interesting to me. Now I can't say for sure because I don't have an A7R Mark II to test side by side, but to me, from this footage, it actually seems like the full frame mode, low light, got better by maybe a stop, and the crop mode got worse by about a stop. So it kind of seems like it evened out. I don't really understand why. And once again, I can't say for certain, but based off of my observation, this is what it seems like. Before, 3200 was a max for full frame mode 4K, and 12,800 was my max for crop mode. Now they're both look decent up to 6400, and not great, but decent, I would say. So very, very interesting stuff. I did end up shooting some S-Log3, but I made a mistake of not overexposing by 2 stops. And here you guys can really see why you have to overexpose. When you don't, your shadows look terrible, absolutely terrible. This is just an even exposure, and the reason why is I was in that program auto for video autofocus for some of these shots. I just let it be. It wasn't overexposing by 2 to 3 stops, and the shadows look absolutely horrific. Not usable, basically. I have one where earlier in the video you guys saw I had the S-Log3 when it was in manual and handheld, and that I overexposed and it looks pretty good.